To start this video, I thought I'd break down the thumbnail a little bit because I try to put a lot of my influences and my thought process behind the video in the thumbnail, but it probably doesn't always make sense. So start off, I photoshopped my waist with this waist trainer that I bought to do another video that I'm not gonna do. It was gonna be on Jada Waita, but yeah, I bought it to be funny and I haven't used it yet. So, because when you think lifestyle and people always talk about getting their lifestyles together, they're putting on waist trainers, they're hitting the gym, they're trying to get a snatch waist or whatever. So I just wanted to make fun of that. And then with the Philz coffee, it's because, you know, with boycotting Starbucks, some people are using Philz coffee as an alternative, which is good, but I was never the type to be buying coffee. So I'm not the type to be seen holding a coffee cup. And, you know, in people's vlogs, they like to go through a drive-through, pick up a coffee, and that's a part of their little day in the life. And then behind me are some Squishmallows. I put the link of where I got that photo in the description, but I just felt like the Squishmallows is a part of an aesthetic that also goes with lifestyles, especially of people who are more carefree and fun, which that's how I think socialists would see themselves. So that's why I put that in there. And then they have drama with Israel. So, well, not drama with Israel. It's like owned by people who support Israel, which is shocking because who would have thought something that looks like this? You know what I'm saying? And then the iPhone had to be in the picture because like the whole selfie too is like the iPhone is made and the materials in it to charge the battery comes from slavery. And all of that just makes these lifestyles chaotic. But in this video, I'm showing that a lifestyle can be way more like radical and intentional than these aesthetics. So if anything, I'm kind of more so going for, this is the tip of the iceberg in the thumbnail of a lifestyle. And we're gonna get into the bottom of the lifestyles and what I feel like it really means in this video. So when I was out, I saw some Squishmallows for myself and I took a picture of the tag just to get some information and do my own research from scratch to see if I get the same conclusion that other people have. So I typed up the LLC that was on the back, and then you get the confirmation of the Jazz Juarez as a parent organization that's also on the tag. And then you get to see the owner is Berkshire Hathaway of that toy company, and that is owned by Warren Buffett. And there was a co-owner that recently died. But then you can just Google Warren Buffett and Israel and you get that Warren Buffett supports Israel. But then also when you go back, because I had to then watch the original video I saw to be like, okay, where do I go next? So the Jazz Juarez CEO and founder, the husband and wife, one is the CEO and founder and one is the president. And they both, when you Google them, have donated to the Israel Occupational Forces, and they have donated to the same place that even Selena Gomez brand tried to act like, oh, we're gonna donate to Megan David Adam to support Gaza, which is backwards because they don't. So yeah, I don't have any of these, but I saw a lot of other people do and it influenced the thumbnail. And yeah, so this information might be helpful for you all who were really committed to buying more of these toys. And also this can show how to do some research on anything you're curious about. Just start Googling stuff on the tag in relation to words that you already are worried about, and it can lead you down a similar path. So I feel like my videos going forward are more so going to be a documentation of me in real time, like being so disillusioned that the ways I interacted with things and participated in things before October is totally different. And this is the new phase. And so to attempt to even explain all the things going on in my head, I wrote some stuff word for word, just to summarize my disillusionment and urgency for change. The more I reread my thoughts, it sounds kind of harsh, but it's actually really honest as I can be. Because once I feel like I can't be honest and transparent, it gets really weird for me. Like, I feel like I don't know what to say, don't know what to do. So I'm like, I just need to say what I want to say and not try to like overly beat around the bush, because then I feel like I don't end up making sense. And this is how much I could beat around the bush without like full on doing certain research that I don't even want to do, but that I'll explain. So I wanted to speak about how I feel about YouTube and its role in educating people during a time like this. Obviously, things have been bad globally and domestically for centuries, so it may seem confusing to some why I have a new sense of urgency to end suffering and trying to explain And trying to explain something that feels so obvious and people should immediately get without so much help makes me nervous. So I hope I don't have to overly explain why things are so bad when I say things are so bad. And I don't only mean that in countries abroad, I mean that here too. Because unfortunately, like in the United States, I don't know what it is. It's like this illusion that if you talk about an issue, you're not also affected by the issue. It always seemed like liberation would not happen in our lifetime to me. But now thinking like that will only mean watching immense suffering every day until each of us are enslaved. Everything I learned since the continuation of the genocide in Gaza has completely changed my understanding of how if our focus is not preparing and planning for resistance, then we are not living in reality. Only money separates people in my position, like being literally in this box on this screen for people to watch. Unless someone in my position is making extreme amounts of money, they are going to face the same consequences that any other person who is not wealthy will. So I hope people do not think like setting up a camera and turning it on shields you from anything. There is very little that will protect any of us from the harms of the United States empire. If anything, this kind of position that I am in can only aid distraction and complacency if not used correctly. The fact that good criticism is still so hard to come by and manage online in regard to the online left is also disappointing. I've found that some of the most powerful videos are usually on apps where people can turn out videos quicker and longer, like TikTok. But across any platform, usually the creators or people who make videos who are the most impactful have not built up platforms for years. And a lot of the social media actions that have really challenged the status quo have not been from people building their platforms for years. Like if your livelihood is from morally posturing and theorizing online all day, you have a great responsibility to people in times of so many people becoming way more conscious of the dystopian reality that has always been. I'll always have ideas for videos, but I feel like I can't keep using so much of my brain the way I do to make videos. So I am going to stop making videos very soon, indefinitely. I'm going to be transitioning to any type of like minimum wage type of work because making videos is minimum wage work, but I want to do something that can be a little more physical. I imagine myself like cleaning up the carts in front of a store or something, maybe even a receptionist. I don't want to do anything that's like fully remote. I want to do something I go to and just when I get off, I can use my brain for all the things that I'm going to be talking about today. I mainly think I'm burnt out from contributing to social media in an unorganized way. I think Black left YouTube should have been organized by now. The fact that creators like me could not create organization behind the camera to be able to fight against fascist censorship online and to collectively exemplify a lifestyle of divestment is disappointing. I know if I don't hold myself accountable, a lot of people won't, and I feel like more of my videos should have always raised the urgency to stop the United States empire. That is the reason for rising evictions, homelessness, hunger, financial devastation, unemployment, and the rise of the police state and more. I believe the reason why I personally do not want to be associated too much with the failure of the lack to organize the Black left YouTube is because, one, people can't do it alone. I have tried my best given my capacity to socialize. When I was in spaces with other creators, I couldn't stand the hypocrisy around COVID and abolition, which I stated before in a video. I did smile and collab with people because at the time, their lack of COVID precautions, it didn't bother me as much as long as I was taking those precautions, but clearly that's no longer how I see things. I thought I could handle that compartmentalizing because I didn't want to do private call-ins all day. Then I started to get more and more dysregulated when I would watch fellow creators' videos because I would be surprised by bad takes. I feel like people should not be demonstrating to a large, impressionable audience certain takes that I was seeing that I found harmful. And some of that came from, if we are not going to be talking about like the ways our material conditions are getting worse and worse, and we are going to cover things that don't have much of a material factor for people, at least do it well. And it's not even well. So yeah, I could have said more. People really love to be messaged privately about stuff, but I could see if I only had to say more to one or two people. It was getting to the point where I'm like, I'm not seeing anyone embody their politic, so let me leave. So I don't get lumped up into that. So it's one thing to have uncomfortable conversations with people who you expect to interact with and share resources with, like food, housing, and safety. I'm in a space like that now. That space is vetted and aligned with my values, so I hope to embody my politic there. But the YouTube space was not truly aligned with my values. Plus, I'm not interested in censoring myself to keep this channel profitable, so the platform itself does not align with my values. Can people use this platform while it exists for helpful information? Yes. But that helpful information needs to be put forward. The fact that I've been too nervous to watch anything my fellow creators have posted in the last 2 to 3 months says a lot. I'm not sure if my peers are finally taking COVID serious. I'm not sure if my peers have made helpful contributions since the genocide in Gaza increased in October. I'm not sure if they understand that the only thing we need to be focusing on as humans is preparing for the needed collapse of the United States empire, or we will be in a really bad place the rest of our lives. I'm nervous that I'd have to be calling people out left and right if I actually did that research. I think making videos that are not about all the genocides, strikes, and material issues people are facing is a horrible way to use a channel built on leftist politics. After October 7th, I have become more disillusioned with this space. I think videos should be made about building collective spaces, prepping, building knowledge on geopolitical politics, and just continue to relay to an audience how dead serious things are and have been. What is happening in Gaza will happen here, and we need to get ready. We should have always been focusing on the urgency that the rising cost of living brings. We should no longer have a consciousness that discourse for discourse sake is a good use of time. I don't care about Tyler in the water. I don't care about Keith Lee stuff. I don't care about Cardi B. We got by for a while on YouTube just making videos about things that ultimately didn't matter, especially with the viewership that is only becoming more unhoused, more hungry, more displaced, more like also disillusioned by like their dreams and stuff before. That should also be coming out through the videos. Non-negotiable. It's not an unrealistic expectation. It's like, if I wasn't saying everything I'm saying right now, it's like I wouldn't be living in reality. Like I wouldn't be worried about my life and everybody I cares about life if like this wasn't coming through at all times. The creators and viewers' need for their bills to be paid are equal. That is not an excuse to put out videos that will perform well but will not aid in the information people need to be hearing right now. People are so easily disbanded as a collective by prioritizing individual survivability. Like, it's not just creators, it's just people in general. Like, it is our responsibility, your responsibility to know about Palestine, the DRC, Sudan, the police state in the United States, Yemen, Haiti. I can go on and on. We are beyond climate change deep dives and just praising a creator that dares to do one video on an extremely pressing issue. At this point, we need videos that are like extremely part after part about like helpful information that we all need to be reclaiming, information we already knew that we need to act on. Everything is realistic at this point. Like, there is nothing that's unrealistic to be doing in terms of our survival. Everything we are seeing is letting us know what will happen in the future. There is no if buts about it. Fascism is here. Like, the police state can get so big that it becomes very, very difficult for us to fight against. So you can expect and demand that people should be giving you material ways to survive, provide mutual aid to resist, to create global socialism. This is not an idealistic ask or demand, it is needed. Whatever creators are left doing this job, they need to step it up. It is so obvious people are enslaved to a racist algorithm and monetization systems. Injustice is compiling the more people delay addressing their issues and other people's issues. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, and then even with a lot of the trending topics nowadays that are not like whatever people feel like they don't want to cover, it's just as like triggering, sad, weird, depressive. It's not like, oh, we can escape talking about genocides today to go what? Talk about domestic violence, to talk about suicide. Like, what? There is no, especially like, and those things are coming from mainstream media. When I say suicide, I'm talking about Megan Thee Stallion's song release. When I'm talking about domestic violence, I'm talking about just bits and pieces from that Cassie and Diddy case. So it's just like, I don't even understand why people will flock to covering to different things that are nothing's really an escape anymore. The dystopian reality has been here for some time, and this dystopian reality, the need to escape, has sustained professions and have delayed people from facing reality. There are so many signs of the horrors to come. I want to be prepared to fight against it via boycotts, mutual aid, any forms of resistance that I am able to do with my accessibility needs being met. But in order to keep like the rest of the time that I'm creating interesting, again, you will see a couple videos from me because I have a grant to fulfill. So once I fulfill that grant, likely in January, I will be done indefinitely. When I get to this point in any place I've been in life, I just leave. Like once I feel like things are like just too messy for me to figure out, I just leave. So to keep creating interesting for the time being, I'm requesting certain types of comments on this video, and only those will be allowed for people to see. So please comment your salary or hourly wage and how many hours you work so people can get an idea of what this comment section to give people a sense of where people are and to connect. Feel free to comment back to people and those will be approved as well. If this is the first video someone is seeing from me, this is a hilarious introduction because I'm fully doing this video as if I'm talking to people that have only been watching me numerous times. But anyways, 15 minutes in, socialism is a political philosophy and movement encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production as opposed to private ownership. It describes the economic and political and social theories and movements associated with the implementation of such systems. This is just a Google definition. My channel has always tried to expound on what you can Google, but this book was foundational for me. It is Socialism Seriously by Denny Ketch. I have recommended it before, and if you look hard enough, you will find where I do recommend books. The book goes on to say, for socialists, being a revolutionary is not a state of mind, a style of protest, or what clique you sit with in the school cafeteria. Instead, it's about understanding that capitalism inevitably produces revolutions and doing what you can to prepare for them so that they might win. The tricky part being that you don't know if that scenario might arise in 5 years or 50. Preparing for revolution does not mean stocking up on canned food and flashlights. It means training ourselves and those who join us for the future by reading and discussing the lessons of the past and fighting and learning how to win in the protest movements of the present. But socialism is the only viable alternative to this society that anyone has ever come up with, which means that anti-capitalists who reject socialism are reduced to vaguely calling for the system to be replaced with something better. This doctrine of something betterism can unite people for a time against what they don't like, but it isn't so great at pointing a positive way forward. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain more of the nitty-gritty because in order to successfully do the demands of oppressed people, you have to have an entirely different lifestyle. And I think that's something that you can see through Black feminist practices. Black feminism is not something that every Black woman does, unfortunately. Black feminism is a political framework that anyone can learn and practice, and almost all, if not all, Black feminists that I have read from have said that socialism and global socialism is the goal. Now, let's get into the lifestyle changes that I believe are necessary and should be developed sooner rather than later. This video will have a part 2. I did try to like put everything in one video, but then that was overwhelming me. So I was like, let me just do a part 2. And that's how we got to this point today. So the first thing I want to start with is finances, because that is one thing that I feel like stops a lot of people from realizing all of their capacity for prepping and all that good stuff. So one of the main things that pretty much anybody can do, and they can plan this to do it over a period of time. If you want to do it immediately, more power to you. Move your money to a credit union that you have done research on and create a plan to no longer bank with big banks. If you have credit card debt with a big bank, that is fine. I believe like if you have a credit card debt, you don't have to continue to have an account where you hold your money via checking and savings with that bank. Like when I have paid off credit card debt, I could just connect it to any bank account so that it would collect my payment. I currently have very little money in a big bank. I will also be canceling my Ally savings account because I do not believe in investing, can be done ethically anymore. I do not want any money in any way used as leverage for companies to invest in anything and make money for wealthy people and war profiting companies. So I say that because like if you have a savings account or an investment account, usually these places need to get the interest to give you from somewhere, and you're either getting some benefits from other people's inability to keep up with fees and whatnot, or you're getting that money from investments in places and things that at this point you can never verify to actually feel confident in. I also think it's very important to make sure you have cash available. You might want to have a set amount you hide somewhere. It might not be the best to have all of your money exist virtually. So I will be putting like links and websites on the screen as I talk, but they will all be in the description as well. I suggest people look up war tax resistance. They can teach you how to legally or illegally avoid taxes, because we know our tax dollars have been funding some of the most atrocious things across the world. Also, do not let like girl boss liberal financial advisors scare you. If you're on public assistance, don't be scared. That's the point of developing mutual aid, because we should be getting off of relying on the state, which is why finances is important. Because also, I don't also see my finances as just my finances. It's something that I want to use as mutual aid, if that is something that I have that I can use to support my mutual aid community. And also, when it comes to finances and budgets, I'm not the type of person that I feel like saving money is good for saving money's sake. Like, you might be trying to cut costs on other things so you can put that money somewhere else, because you just don't have the money to let it sit and accumulate. So for me, all of my motivations when it comes to pivoting how I've been spending some of my money is that I'm just too disgusted to continue to have some of the money habits that I had before. So I wanted to reference this TikTok that I seen from William Lynn on TikTok, and I just randomly came across this video, and it completely was what I needed to hear to get me off of Uber Eats. Because from like January to about October, I just had a bad Uber Eats slump where I was ordering from it so much because I felt like I really needed it. Like, I just did not have the energy or urge in that point in my life to be cooking, figuring out groceries and ingredients. But once I saw that video, I was like, you know what? I need to get in front of this issue before I'm relying on the tech industry that acts like they care, acts like they're providing accessibility. They're not. This is the comfort economy. I can't remember the phrasing they used. And convenience economy. And I was like, yeah, no, they're not about to trick me. Me, someone who's been documenting my budget for 3 years, and they got me all caught up. So like, I needed to hear that because nobody else was helping me break out of that habit other than randomly coming across this video. So like, sometimes you just need to hear certain information to give you another perspective that helps you like get that discipline back, and maybe like there was something else that I was prioritizing that I can exit out so that I can get back on food if I know that I don't want to be spending money with Uber Eats. Because, you know, of course, with the convenience economy comes things that do help people with their disabilities. But at the same time, especially in my case, this was something that I was able to kind of more check and wean off of. And now in November and December, I've spent under $100 on Uber Eats. That's a big difference for the girls who've been keeping up with my budget updates. So yeah. Now, the next thing that I wanted to discuss before we go on to the next topic is banks. Again, because one, I don't know, I feel like the younger generation is not really using like big banks. I feel like some of them might be using like Cash App and getting a Cash App card and having their like money deposited there from their jobs. I'm feeling like those other like mobile apps for your money that's recommended to you, that when they're like, oh, we'll give you your money in advance, a few days in advance if you need it. I feel like those are the places that a lot of people might be holding their money with. I don't know if those are the best. One, Cash App is really unsustainable, I see, mainly for the people who scam. But yeah, I don't think I would want to be keeping my money in Cash App. But other than that, I say that to say, given your situation, I also want to say that maybe more people should revert back to getting physical checks mailed to them. Again, depending on your situation, you might be in a situation where it's better that your job is doing direct deposit. I just suggest that you were checking your pay stubs and all of that. And yeah, because this is the thing, when you can't get a physical check, a lot of the times, like, you need a bank account. You know, you can't just go to the check cashing place, and you could probably have an account with the check cashing place. You might really want to see your options. And even me, I'm trying to learn from people who are undocumented and have to live without certain things that American citizens automatically have access to. So that's where I'm coming from, just to kind of learn more of the habits we should probably go back to, because people were doing just fine with those things and had more autonomy. And I feel like the convenience economy and how like everything is going, we've kind of lost some of our rights and making things seem so convenient. The next thing is something that I think is important that I tried to show in the thumbnail, because anytime you try to talk about like anti-capitalism, for some reason people love to bring up iPhones as like something that makes anybody who's critical of society a hypocrite. And in some ways, yeah, I think a lot of us have went a long time knowing that there has been slavery involved in how we get our electronics, but have not done a deep dive of like, what really is it? And I can say, like, for me, like, slavery has been one of the reasons why I am anti-fast fashion and have always been buy as you really need, not what you think. You know, do you really need that? Because these things are coming from slavery, and unless you put the posters around the entire town to show the proof, people will kind of be like, well, my need trumps whatever slavery you're alleging. And it's like, if the cost is low, if it's being pushed out every single year, there is some nefarious things going on. But to not get too off track, whatever technology you have, keep it, sustain it, use it, get to know it in and out. Maybe you can start to learn how to take care of your own technology outside of like these tech shops. Maybe that's something you want to do. But it's really important for these things we've already bought and have to really, really, really treat them with all the respect and care, because we know that people lost their lives and were enslaved and are enslaved to make these things. And then with these devices, we are being tracked. Our data is used in ways that doesn't benefit us and encroaches on our privacy. So I think that's going to be a really long journey for a lot of us, because it's going to take us using our phones slower to make sure that we are not opting into things that we don't really understand, and to make sure that we're not allowing access to photos and whatnot on our devices, all our photos on any apps we use, because that's not encrypted. But specifically, did you know that when someone uses Google service on their phone with location history enabled, Google logs that phone's position about every 2 minutes. The company can estimate the location of a person's device within 9 feet. Today, police increasingly turn to Google for assistance using keyword warrants, which request information on everyone who has Google specific search terms, among other tools, to help when solving crimes. Now that the United States Supreme Court has overturned things like Roe v. Wade, and states are criminalizing the right to obtain reproductive care, there is a real fear that Google will be compelled to provide users' data to authorities and could try to target people seeking abortions. Google can be told that we need real data protection. People seeking abortions need real protection, and consumers are becoming more and more vigilant. Something that's going to be really important is a lot of the things I'm talking about in this video are like illegal in ways like collective mutual aid. That's something that is actively being stomped out all over this country and this world. It is illegal for people to boycott over this country and this world. It is illegal for people to boycott certain things. When it comes to making sure we are not being tracked and that the things that we do on our phones cannot be used against us is very serious, and it's going to become a bigger threat than people think, because a lot of people felt, and even I have felt at some time, like, I'm not doing anything wrong, so who cares if I'm being watched? But like, no, it matters if you're being watched, and wrong is changed at any period of time by the imperialist powers. So anything could be illegal, outlawed, and next thing you know, again, you realize our police and prisons are used to suppress liberation more than they are for crime, or whatever they consider crime. Okay, so the next is patience. And I say patience because this is something that anybody of any belief can use. But patience right now is really important, because I feel like there is an urgency to build sustainable systems, but there has to be a level of patience to know that if you are doing certain steps each day, it will give you the result you want, maybe in a year, maybe 6 months to a year. It also allows you to understand the effects of boycotting. Like boycotting, once you start boycotting something, like you won't always see the effects overnight unless the boycott is like really big and organized for a certain target. But a lot of us are getting to that place. So if we're going to do something like boycotting on Black Friday, it might take a couple of years to continue to strengthen that awareness and message. So one Black Friday will have millions of people participate. The next one will have even more millions. The next one we will have billions, to the point where it's obsolete. So I think like it's good to be patient in that aspect of knowing that you don't have to start preparing or organizing a boycott a week before you want to boycott something. I was really led to say this because right after Black Friday, a lot of people were just pulling headlines and basically like being like, oh, you all didn't boycott. And I feel like a lot of those people were not being patient and critical thinkers, realizing that those article headlines were to make us feel like we did not have an impact because they knew we were boycotting, and the media has shown to manipulate and bamboozle us. So either the people coming out and being like, oh, you all actually spent a lot of money, I thought we were boycotting, like either you were never on our side or you don't know how to analyze these articles. And there have been like helpful people that have been like, if you really read these articles, they aren't saying that Black Friday did that well actually. But I'm also here to say too, you can start advocating for people to boycott Black Friday 2024 January 1st or right now, and be sowing the seeds up until that day, so way more bases are covered. And that goes for any organizing effort and any effort to boycott or start a boycott, which is why I'm making this video. So hopefully people have stuff in line, so when people are telling you to boycott and go on general strike, it's like, oh, I can do that because I've gotten the lifestyle together. And other people have gotten the lifestyle together so that they could help me, you know, whatever. Let me not ramble too much. And then I also liked this video that this creator posted on patience and different hobbies that you can build so that you can help build up your attention span and really be able to be in this for the long haul, because we're really trained to be capitalist pawns for the long haul. Next is creativity. There is a lot to creativity, but I really hope that people just don't rely on me. If my place in the world will be to think of all the ideas for people, then okay, give me that job and let me just do that. But if not, people have to get more creative. Like, it really breaks my heart that some people cannot like think of new ideas on their own and really expand outside of the limitations they usually create ideas through. So I think one way people can do this is view everything they currently own as multifunctional to see if it actually is. Like, again, I recently started just anytime I buy something that's in glass, keep it before that's common for a lot of people, but that's something that I had to start doing. And then I throw it away when I actually feel like, okay, there is no purpose for this in my home, let me get rid of it. But I think people should slow down. Like, even before you throw things away, can I clean this? Can I repurpose this? Okay, if this is something that looks ugly on the outside, can I spray paint it? Can I keep it? What can I do so that it serves as a different function in my home? Because even going back to the finances thing a bit, every time you spend money, that's really important. That was your hard-earned money. So how can you make sure that it stretches the most? You've already spent on a lot of the things in your home. How can you show that you truly value those things by using them in different ways? Like, a lot of the times, sometimes we don't even have to spend money. We have to just take a different look at the things we already own and how to repurpose it and use it. And I also think creativity is a big one for, like, we're seeing a lot of information that is held digitally. You can be creative and figure out, okay, I really saw this impactful video. How can I take the things that I learned in this video or saw in this video and actually make sure it exists in ways that people could see and interact with in real life? Repurposing content in that way, not me as the creator, but the person as the viewer, if they would like to do more with the information that they learned. How can this exist in real life? How can you go to your library, print things, create QR codes so that people in real life can like see it and use it? And I also say that too because I think there's this really big push for people to talk to their neighbors, which I think is important, but you have to use some discernment. Because for me, I'm a little too nervous to talk to my neighbors because I don't want to find out someone's clashing political beliefs, and now they know where I live, and now that they can harass me or something just from a simple interaction. Like, you never know. But at the same time too, a lot of us are just not social in that aspect, and I was trying to push myself to do that, but I'm also like, why don't my neighbors come talk to me the same way people are telling me to go talk to them? But I think there are different like creative ways. Again, like, you might not have to have a physical conversation. You could probably just write your neighbors a letter. So I think creativity is also to realize when someone suggests that you should do something, figure out how you can do that in your capacity. That's what I think is being creative as well. And this also reminds me of like the creativity behind like those emotion pillows where you can flip it to show what your emotion is, or even like pins that people have made that people can use the pins to show their social capacity. I don't use any of those things, but those are people that have made things to be creative. Now, those were for profit or whatever, but we ain't saying be creative for money right now, because people have done that and it hasn't gotten us too many places. Okay, so now back into some tangible things. Emergency prepping for things like fire, floods, and other issues that can happen can be useful also for divesting from the United States empire. Okay. So a lot of what I'm talking about here is leftist prepping, not doomsday prepping, or really even what homesteaders do. This is something that, again, if you're living in reality, like, you have to be considering. So you can either purchase, share, or make things that will help you during, you know, inevitable hard times. So you can want to get things like a fire blanket, a fireproof safe. You can get your own extinguisher if you don't know where one is where you live. You can watch YouTube videos on fire safety, have a suitcase packed just in case you need to flee a fire. You can have an inflatable vest for floods. You can buy things to waterproof documents you need to keep safe. You could watch flood safety videos. These things will happen to you. So for example, for me, I can only speak for myself, but I have spent a lot of money on things. Like, I think the most expensive pair of shoes I bought was in like 2019. I spent like $600 on a pair of sneakers. In 2019, I probably made like $25,000 that year. So buying expensive things for me has not correlated with making a lot of money. But I say that because I valued that so much that I was willing to spend that money on it when I barely had it. And I think that we've lived our lives thinking that when we do have money or when we do splurge, it's on certain things that do not help us during times of crisis, because we assume that our tax dollars and whatnot should have been going to those things. But because it is not, we do have to realize that if we don't have money, we can start demanding and asking for those things. So for example, if I'm listing all of these things and you're like, I don't have the money for this, maybe that's a reason to create a crowdfunding ask. Like, I want to have a fire blanket, or me and 4 other people realize it's important to have these fire materials. We're going to, as a group, ask for these needs to be met. So it could be things like that when you're realizing that you need these safety things. Like I said, one day I woke up at 6 a.m. and that was the last day I was living in that unit. My unit was condemned because there was a horrible fire on my floor. Someone died that day. Literally, you never know when these things will happen to you. Thankfully, I had renter's insurance. That stuff does not kick in fast. So you need to be acting like one day you could wake up to a fire, one day you could wake up to a flood, because these things are really likely to happen to you. Many of you drive. You have to be preparing for if something happens to your car. And again, if you can't prepare for those things financially, maybe you can prepare for those things community wise, and also you can start creating a list of demands and asks that you have. So again, tell people you are prepping so that you could split the responsibility. You know, I would call this socialist prepping, responsible human under imperial rule prepping, climate change prepping. You know, this is very real thing. One thing that made me more confident to really talk about this kind of prepping and to elaborate on it further in the next part was my mutual sending me this video of someone calling it leftist prepping. Off of my main channel here, I've talked about prepping a lot. I've already bought some stuff. It's always been something that I felt like weird doing, even though I knew it was practical. But my mutual, who knows I talk about this stuff a lot, sent me another creator who's been talking about leftist prepping. So I was happy that more people are coming out and have been out doing this kind of stuff, because I can't believe it's not more of like a mainstream thing. Now, in terms of just emergencies and insurance, it is really important to start making an Excel sheet or a written list that you take a picture of everything in your home. You do not have to do this in one day. You can do this over a period of time. I need to say that so people don't panic. If someone told me to have an inventory of everything I owned before I experienced the fire, would I have listened? No. So hopefully you all listen, but I know you probably won't. But it will be important to create an inventory, and not only for a fire or a flood or whatever, an insurance claim, but also so that you can figure out, oh, what you do actually have that you can multi-purpose. Okay, so next thing is mutual aid. So before I go into more things on mutual aid, the first thing I have to say is to read. I know this is something that a lot of people don't do because they're like, I can't focus on reading. Now, when I read, I typically read with a physical book and an audiobook. That's not necessarily expensive for me because that is something I prioritize. So I have trade-offs. I won't purchase this, so I can purchase a book and an audiobook, or you can get free books. You can really finesse it. Like the same way people are pirating Netflix things, you can get these books for free, and you could find subscriptions where you can create an email multiple times to get the audiobook for free. Library cards, you can get so many free audiobooks through library cards. So let's not even, okay, this is not the time for excuses. Only valid reasons to not do something will be considered. When I say read, I say that because I suggest the Mutual Aid book by Dean Spade. This has a physical copy and an audiobook copy. You do not have to read it all in one sitting. You can take your time and read it, but it's going to be important to prioritize reading some long-term text. And you have to think for yourself, like, okay, if I know I need to read this, how can I get to it? How can I create an environment where reading will actually be something that is not so harmful to me? And also too, I have seen groups where one person buys the audiobook, they have a group call and just play the audiobook for a little bit of time. So that's what I mean, like with getting creative. Like if you are really communicating that it's really hard for you to get through reading, and maybe you're even functionally illiterate, maybe you have to let other people know that so they can read to you, they can play the audiobook, they can walk through the book with you. So this, again, if you can't do something, be demanding that you need help getting it done. So with mutual aid is not just crowdfunding. I know some people might think that because a lot of people, especially once 2020 changed our lives, a lot of people kind of switched from just crowdfunding, asking for donations, to specifically saying that they're asking for mutual aid. Sometimes people are crowdfunding and they need finances. But other people, when they ask for mutual aid, they may be asking for finances. They may be asking for housing, so to live with you, or they may be asking for food, for you to share food. So people might be asking for a bunch of things. And when you are doing mutual aid, you can expect some mutual aid back in the form of developing a sustainable way of life with that person, with those people that are doing the mutual aid. I feel like some people feel like they can't do mutual aid because they don't have money, but you can be doing mutual aid by shifting your priorities with a group of people in order to attempt to meet all of your needs and figuring out how can we meet each other's needs together. Okay, this is really important too. So you don't have to do these things haphazardly. Like, I think it's really important that when you're doing mutual aid to vet people that you're going to be doing mutual aid with, so you can figure out if you all have the same priorities. Like, I know for myself, I no longer can just be throwing myself in groups where the group has not been vetted. Are you an abolitionist? Are you COVID conscious? Are you a socialist? You know, like, this is what I need to know before I am like really trying to be doing mutual aid with people. Because if we have different values, you don't have to do mutual aid with somebody else. Now, when I do donate to people, I don't expect my needs to be getting met all the time. I donate without having to know someone, without having to get anything in return, because I don't mind donating, especially to people who I don't even know if they meet all my things, you know? So I make donations, but when I'm expecting mutual aid and I'm putting money into mutual aid, then that's something different for me. Will I make donations? Yes. Will I continue to make donations? Yes. But when I'm going to be doing mutual aid, that's kind of what the things I was talking about. So I would never be too heartless to be like, I'm not going to donate to you because I'm not getting anything in return and I don't know you like that. Like, that's not me. So this is one that I don't really have a category for, but probably will come up again. So new normal expectations. So for example, I saw a video of someone urging people to donate blood because it helps people with sickle cell. And we know many Black people deal with that. And there are a bunch of like health things that Black people deal with that could be alleviated if more people knew how to also donate what they have bodily, I guess. And I know bone marrow has also been something that people have wished that people did more. And I feel like it's when I was watching that video and I realized how important that is, it just reminded me of how our life is not, or society isn't structured for us to just do those things. Like, hey, it's a Monday, I only do labor in my community for a couple hours today. Then I'm going to head over to the clinic to monthly give blood to help the people in my community who have sickle cell. I just wish that was like a normal thing that we know will happen in the future. That's just what we do for our community. Because when you watch like these compelling videos of people saying how this is so needed and how so many people don't know it's so needed, like, that really gets me. And I just wish it was so easy for that need to be met for people and they didn't have to plead their case in videos like that, And that's another thing too, because I feel like with these new expectations, people don't understand that, like, yeah, you will be expected and asked to give your resources to things that you didn't come up with on your own, or you think you didn't. Like, it was so funny because, like with boycotting and other things, people be like, don't tell me how to spend my money. But who do tell you how to spend your money? All the ads you watch every day, how you grew up, how you've been taught to spend your money. Those things tell you how to spend your money. You don't just spend your money on the things that you do because you have the free will and you thought of it and you made that conscious decision. That's not the case. Honestly, you have to make a conscious decision to not spend in the ways that you do if they aren't going to fix expenses. Like, when you have a disposable income, that money will go where you have been conditioned to spend it on. Another thing that I think is important is to write down or type up some of the things that you find yourself needing throughout the day. So this can also be helpful for, like, especially people who have medications that they need to get, like weekly, monthly prescriptions and things like that. Like, I wonder, when you have needs like that, what needs to be developed so that without the traditional way of you getting those things, which is typically facilitated through the state, gate kept by money, what are all the ways you feel like you can get like your needs met in terms of like prescription medication and stuff without the status quo? So the same way like people have their allergies written down, what are some things that are very difficult for you to do and you need people to make up for that? I think is important, really important for people to know and for you to have handy. And I've been like, playing around with that. Like, there have been a lot more sensory things that I have been researching and trying out. And there have also just been things that I'm trying to figure out what would be helpful for me in social spaces that I wish people like did in order to support me in those spaces. So all of those things I think is really good to start like writing down, brainstorming. And I say that because it's just really important for me for people to feel like they matter, like, and not in terms of like, oh, whatever you're going through matters, but your life, the future, how you contribute, all of this, like, you need to show up for me just as much as I need to show up for you. So that's kind of how I see it. Like, I feel like if people keep thinking that they have to save some people in a distant place, they don't understand that their liberation is tied with yours. That's important. I feel like I wish I didn't have to kind of like use that framing, but hopefully that will get through to people. Along with people sharing their income, I probably made around $60,000 this year before taxes. But before I go further, let me like talk about my income before this year. So like I said, in 2019, I probably made around $25,000 that year. Then 2020, I made $45,000. I had my first salary job. 2021, I believe I was making $50,000. Then 2022, I made around that amount, around $45,000. And now we're in 2023 where I've made about $60,000. With all those incomes, I have been, of course, paying rent, food, student loan debt. So my student loan debt is still in the 40,000s. Every year that I live, my net worth is negative. So again, that's where I'm coming from with this, which I think is helpful. So I also, hopefully, if you have not already calculated your yearly income from your hourly wage you work or your salary job, I really hope that you do that to really see what you have. Because anybody making like under, I would say $150,000 a year as like a single person, with no kids or with kids, like, you are down bad. Okay, you're struggling somewhere with something. But of course, if I was making like $70,000 a year, I would be in a way better position to pay down debt and stuff. So of course, this money and stuff is different for different people, but I say that because it's really, really hard to find a job to pay you over $50,000. It's so hard to find a job to pay you over $60,000. And even with my income last month, I was able to donate like $300. So it's not like with these incomes and stuff that you have no money that can bring you joy or comfort, but it's kind of giving us a sense of like ultimately what we're up against. Individually and as a collective. So yeah, this is the end of part 1. There's so much more, trust me, so much more to discuss in part 2. So I will be sure to cover things that might have seemed left out here.